All right. Well, again, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the second of our four-part series of nutrition webinars. This particular conversation is brought to you by AARP Ohio, and we are going to be talking about diet's power to promote healthy aging, specifically with regard to our gastrointestinal health. I am so honored to introduce our guest presenter today, a registered dietitian named Jane Korsberg. My name is Robin Kaltenbach, and I'm the Associate State Director of Advocacy and Community Engagement in the Northeast of Ohio. So whether this is your first time joining us for a virtual program or you made it part of your healthy lifestyle routine, we're very happy that you're on this call with us today. AARP is committed to helping each of us manage our health as we age by providing tools, resources, and information that will help you live a healthy life in mind, body, and spirit. Adopting a whole body approach includes eating healthy, staying active, and focusing on our brain health. These are all recipes for healthy aging. In 2017, AARP researchers conducted a study to understand and explore the relationship between nutrition and healthy eating with that of brain health and mental well-being. The results are compelling, and I will try to share with you more information on the survey and those results if I can get that chat feature up and running again. But to summarize it, there were a couple of really interesting key findings. They include information that there appears to be a correlation between eating at least the recommended serving of fruits and vegetables with better brain health and mental well-being. That also found that most adults aged 40 and older are not getting the proper nutrition. So you being here today is the first step in managing your mental and physical well-being. Eating a balanced diet can have profound effects on your physical well-being and your cognitive health. Before we get started, just a couple of things to keep in mind. If you have questions during the presentation, be sure to put those in the Q&A feature, and I'll try to circle back to those at the end of the presentation. If you do not have your question answered or something comes up afterwards, you're always welcome to email us at ohaarp@aarp.org. Again, if I can get the chat working, I'll drop that in the chat. We are recording the webinar, and it'll post on the Ohio AARP Facebook page within about a week or so. Now, let's get into the program. Our presenter today is Jane Korsberg, a registered dietitian who recently retired as president of her own private practice, Nutrition Reality LLC, where she provided nutrition counseling services for a variety of healthcare needs, focusing on her passion for wellness and disease prevention and control. Prior to opening her practice, Jane served as the senior instructor in the Department of Nutrition at Case Western Reserve University. She was a nutrition expert for the website Net Wellness. She served as the director of the Hurley Medical Center Dietetic Internship in Flint, Michigan, and held numerous positions in her long career in hospital nutrition and adult education. It is my pleasure to introduce our presenter, Jane Korsberg.
Thank you, Robin, and welcome everyone. It's good to see you all online here. Let's see if I can get my slides going. Okay, the objective today, as Robin said, is we're going to focus this second session of a 4-session series on your GI health, and all of this is backed by science. So today we'll focus on, first of all, the very basics, how your GI tract works. Then what your GI tract is trying to tell you, dietary treatment strategies to achieve a healthy gut microbiome, and how diet adjustments can help prevent, relieve, or control those common GI problems that many of us experience, like IBS, hemorrhoids, heartburn, GERD, diarrhea, and constipation. Now, just a little disclaimer here. This information presented today is for general knowledge and educational purposes only and doesn't constitute medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Please always consult a qualified healthcare professional for any health concerns or before making any decisions related to your health-specific medical needs or treatment. Don't rely on Dr. Google. So to start us off, how your GI tract works. Well, what we knew about digestion and absorption in the early years was pretty basic stuff. And if I were to survey you now, you might come up with things like our body needs food. That's no surprise. Or waste products are eliminated regularly. Frequent rumblings and gurglings are occurring in the body, and you could feel those or hear those. And our digestive system is selective, meaning if you had swallowed something that couldn't be broken down, let's say a marble, that marble could not break down in your GI tract. It would go all the way through and out. But we had a breakthrough, and in 1822, there was this Dr. William Beaumont that happened to be in the right place at the right time because he was an army surgeon, and there was a chance medical encounter with Alexis St. Martin, who was accidentally shot in the chest by a musket. Now, Beaumont attended to that patient immediately, and in fact, within a half an hour, and was able to at least help him in some ways. He really thought it was a fatal prognosis, but for some reason, he was able to get that wound to heal, and St. Martin survived. The only glitch was that there was a fistula, which is an opening from the outside of the body directly into his stomach, that wouldn't heal. And Dr. Beaumont noticed even the size of his finger could actually go into that stomach area. So the two of them thought this is a great way to learn about what goes on in the stomach and in digestion. And the patient agreed for the rest of his life to work with Dr. Beaumont on doing these experiments, such as taking a piece of meat and putting it on a silk string, putting it into the stomach and seeing what happened. They found out about the acidity in the stomach and all sorts of things. It was documented, and if you went to a medical library, you could find the whole volume of all of the things they documented and studied. So it opened up a world of information to us about the GI tract and what's going on. Now, basically, what we do know is the GI tract is a flexible muscular tube, and it extends from your mouth to your anus. It runs through the center of our body, and it operates like an assembly line in reverse. So, an assembly line is usually you're putting things together to form a bigger item. In this case, we're taking that bigger item, which could be food, say an apple, and you're breaking it down along the GI tract and releasing all of the different nutrients that the body needs and getting it to the places it has to go. Then there's digestive juices that are released to help the process. And the end result of digestion is that it'll generate the energy or calories, as well as oxygen, water, and essential components. It replaces the cells that are constantly dying and keeps you functioning. It's got a lot of work to do for us. Whoops. Let me see if I can go back on that one. There we go. So other systems are vital for digestion and absorption, and that's for transport. Moving those nutrients around the body, you need the circulatory system, which consists of your bloodstream and lymph. And then for regulation, there's the hormone system and the nervous system that also play a role. Now, the process of digestion and absorption, many people say, oh, digestion starts in the mouth, but that's not really true. The first step is that the brain will be where digestion starts because you receive a signal from the nervous system. Think about if you smelled fresh baked bread or chocolate chip cookies coming out of the oven. Before you're even eating those items, you start to salivate just from that alone. And that's the start of some of the digestion. Then step 2 is the mouth. And in the mouth, you have two kinds of digestion taking place. One is mechanical and the other is chemical. So with the mechanical digestion, it's the teeth and the tongue and the process of swallowing that start to mash up the food and get it to deconstruct along the way. Chemical digestion, also in the mouth, starts with saliva. So saliva and the carbohydrate digesting enzymes are present, and provides moisture in helping you swallow and go through that process. In the illustration you can see on the right, they call the food that you have there, that mass of food, a bolus. And the food is moved down using the tongue. The epiglottis is there, the larynx, it's closing off the trachea, so food's not going to go down your windpipe, and it's going to go down the esophagus instead and travel. Then step 3 would be the esophagus, and that bolus of food has to be moved further along the line and again start to break up even further. The process is called peristalsis, and if you look at this diagram, think of if you had a marble in a tube of toothpaste and you wanted to move the marble from the bottom to the top, you'd be squeezing and squeezing and squeezing to get it to move along in that toothpaste tube. And it's the same with the esophagus. That's through that squeezing, you're going to see that happen. The cardiac sphincter muscle is between the esophagus and the stomach, and it's making sure the food doesn't enter until it's ready, and then it'll release and it'll pass into the stomach. Okay, here we go. Step 4 is the stomach, and protein digestion begins there. So we said carbohydrate digestion begins in the mouth. It's your instant energy food because it's digested very quickly. So that's a good thing. We need that. But protein takes longer to break down, and it starts the real digestion of protein in the stomach. And we have another sphincter there, or a circular muscle, that's just a ring keeping the food in the stomach until it's ready to be released into the large intestine. You can imagine, since the stomach is so acidic, if it were to leak into your intestine before it was time, you could burn holes in the lining of your intestine because it's not used to that. So the sphincters play a huge role. When you look at the pH of different digestive juices versus other common fluids, gastric juice or digestive juices are down on that scale in the acidic range almost to battery fluid. Water and saliva are more in the neutral range at 7. So again, that digestive juice shouldn't be released into your intestine until it's been neutralized a little bit and safer. The 5th step is the small intestine itself. Now, this is an important area because it's the major site of digestion of food and absorption of your nutrients. If you look again, you're going to see peristalsis still continues. That's squeezing and moving the bolus of food down. As it does it, you can see the portions of that food bolus are breaking down into smaller and smaller components. Now, the intestine itself is not a totally smooth surface because we want to increase absorption way beyond that. So there's something called villi and microvilli. When you think of the intestine, it's got like these finger-like projections. So if you think of your fingers, every finger is going to increase that absorption because there's so many different areas that can absorb it. But on those finger-like projections are microvilli, and that's a lot of little hairs coming off of that. And that also increases the absorption. So we're not going to miss any absorption of our nutrients as long as everything is functioning properly. So here you can see the sites of nutrient absorption. In the stomach, really the only thing that is absorbed is if you have alcohol, about 20% is absorbed. The small intestine takes the gamut. It's all of the nutrients that you can see there. And in the colon, we're more like with water and some electrolytes. And the rectum, there would be nothing. So the intestine, again, is a very vital organ for absorption of your nutrients. Now, the large intestine, or the colon, only fluid and some minerals are absorbed in this area. And the rectum is there to store feces. The anus is another one of those closures that when it's closed, you won't eliminate. When it opens, it allows elimination. and the terminal sphincter muscle relaxes to open that passageway. So you need to listen to your body when it's time to go to the bathroom. Listen to it so you don't get any of this not operating correctly and causing you issues. So the warning here is if any part of this whole GI process breaks down, you will experience GI issues. And it's totally preventable with what we're going to talk about next. Now, again, listen to what your GI tract is trying to tell you. Don't ignore the signs. If it tells you you need to go to the bathroom, then go to the bathroom. Don't hold it for a whole day and say, okay, now I have time to go to the bathroom. But other symptoms, nausea, weight gain or loss, swelling, bloating, loss of appetite, flatulence, also meaning gas, diarrhea, constipation, abdominal pain, and reflux. All of these are symptoms that you need to pay attention to. Now, the dietary treatment strategies to achieve a healthy gut microbiome and hopefully prevent all this GI distress is what I'll cover next. So what is the gut microbiome? You may have heard it in the media, and people are talking about eat this, eat that, it's good for your gut. Well, here we go. Microorganisms that coexist in our gut and serve many different functions are the gut microbiome. The beneficial microbes, primarily bacteria, help with digestion. They synthesize certain micronutrients and support your immune system. Microbes feed on what we eat, which is why our nutrition can play a crucial role in maintaining a healthy gut microbiome. All depends on what you're putting in that system. And consuming foods that nourish beneficial bacteria helps them grow and function, while limiting the foods available for harmful bacteria, which helps curb their growth. So foods for gut health and digestion. Basically, you want to choose a well-balanced diet. That's key. It should provide all the major food groups while choosing the best foods in each group. So the foods that are rich in fiber, prebiotics, probiotics, and antioxidants. If you've heard of the plate method for choosing a healthy diet, that's what this picture on the right-hand side is showing you. A quarter of the plate should be your whole grains. A quarter should be fruits, quarter vegetables, a quarter your lean proteins, and dairy is off to the side, depending on your tolerance. So, foods to include in your diet. We mentioned fiber already. Fiber is found in whole grains, beans, legumes, fruits, and vegetables, and is linked to beneficial bacteria in the gut. Now, there's two types of fiber. The one fiber is soluble fiber. It's broken down by the bacteria in the gut and produces beneficial compounds and gases, which is why fiber and gas kind of are connected together. Some people experience more gas than others depending on the foods. Insoluble fiber is actually the exercise for our gut, and it helps soften your stools, adds bulk to the stools, making them softer and easier. So food will move through the GI tract easier, and when it's time to excrete that from your body, it's going to be more comfortable and a softer stool. Then there's antioxidant-rich foods that we also want to include in our diet. It helps the body get rid of harmful compounds that can damage your cells. These include vitamin C-rich fruits and vegetables, nuts, seeds, and whole grains. With prebiotic foods, they're broken down by the bacteria in the gut and help keep the pH level balanced. It stops harmful bacteria from growing and helps with bowel movements. The foods, especially in this grouping, is onion, garlic, asparagus, bananas, wheat, rye, beans, and milk. Probiotic foods are living microorganisms that can colonize the gut and support digestive health. Examples here are yogurt and fermented foods. So sauerkraut, kombucha, tempeh, You may have heard of these. They all have live active bacteria in them, which is a probiotic and good for your gut. When you look at yogurt containers, I was always taught early on, look for it saying live lactobacillus, which is one of the probiotic foods. Fiber can benefit health in a number of different ways. Now, it promotes a feeling of fullness by absorbing water and swelling. If you think about it, if you were to eat French fries, they don't have much fiber to them, and they have a lot of fat and salt on them, and you just can eat and eat and eat and not feel full. But if I said, how many baked potatoes can you eat? A whole baked potato, usually it's one. That baked potato with the skin on it promotes that feeling of fullness, it offers the fiber, and is more filling. Now, fiber also reduces the calorie intake by displacing the calorie dense or high calorie fats and sweets. You'll fill up on a salad much slower, or much faster, I'm sorry, than eating, say, 10 potato chips, which would be 100 calories. Fiber helps prevent constipation, hemorrhoids, and other intestinal problems by aiding the ease of elimination. It helps prevent bacterial infection of your appendix. It's associated with reduced incidence of colon cancer and may reduce the risk of heart and artery disease by lowering blood cholesterol, as well as improves the body's handling of glucose. So with all of those factors, fiber is something we really need to pay attention to and include every day. Now, the Dietary Guidelines for Americans recommends that anyone over 2 years old should aim for 14 grams of dietary fiber for every 1,000 calories they eat, and emphasize the importance of consuming a variety of foods high in fiber. So fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and legumes. Make sure you get a mix of that in a day. It's more interesting, less boring of a diet as well. And just a note, high fiber diets do tend to produce a lot of intestinal gas, but the gas may not bother you unless something else irritates the bowel to the point of trapping that gas. And main culprits are things like drinking coffee, smoking, and stress. So to prevent flatulence or gas, constipation, or other problems, just gradually increase the fiber in your diet, along with increasing water intake and regular exercise. That will keep you comfortable, have less gas, and keep your body regular. Now, this is a diet analysis for one day of two different people. We have Etta, Good Diet, and Disaster's Diet. So you can imagine who's good and who's bad here. But on Etta's diet, she chose many healthful foods. You've got bran flakes for breakfast with a non-fat milk, a banana. She did have some brewed coffee, an orange for a snack, then a whole wheat sandwich with turkey and lettuce in it and tomato. She's having an apple at that lunch. The afternoon was some pretzels. Then for dinner, she had fish, brown rice, spinach, a whole wheat roll. There's a salad there, a little sherbet for a treat. Excuse me. And she had some graham crackers and milk in the evening. If you take a look at the fiber content of what she ate, that's 29 grams of fiber for about 1,700 calories in her day. And remember, we said about 14 grams of fiber for every 1,000 calories. So she's doing very well with those food choices. Now, poor D did not make the best of choices because her foods were highly processed foods and very low in fiber. Breakfast was bacon and eggs, white bread and butter with jelly, cream and sugar in the coffee, and the morning snack was cream and sugar in her coffee again with a donut. McDonald's fast food for lunch. Afternoon snack was potato chips with Coke. And then she had fettuccine Alfredo with white wine and Italian bread. And then a cake for dessert with more coffee. So she ended up with only 5 grams of fiber and almost 3,300 calories. Same quantity of food, but the value of those choices really mattered to make it a healthier diet for Etta than D. So I hope you can try to look at your own intakes and see where you can tweak yours to make it a little bit better. So, what is a whole grain? We hear about it all the time. They're always saying it's important to get at least half of your grain intake from whole grains. And this helps ensure you're getting enough fiber and other essential nutrients. But grains are actually the seeds of various types of cereal grasses. And it should make up a quarter of your plate, as you see on the choosemyplate.gov illustration. Now, any grain that you have has three components. There's the outer shell, which contains the bran, the fiber, and some B vitamins and trace minerals. There's the innermost layer, and that's the germ. So there it's a nutrient powerhouse. It's got lots of B vitamins, phytonutrients, antioxidants, and healthy fats. Then you have the middle layer, which is called the endosperm. That provides pure energy from carbohydrate and some protein. And if you think about, say, white bread, that's all the endosperm. It's that white, fluffy stuff. When you think of the germ, like wheat germ or wheat bran, you're getting the more nutritional package if you have it all together. So as the milling process happens, a whole grain takes all those three areas and mills it together to make our food. With the refined grain, they only use that endosperm, that white fluffy stuff again. And when that's milled, the germ and the bran are discarded or used in other products. And very often it's in pet food. So the pets are getting great nutrition and we are not. So whole grain benefits beyond fiber as well. They have phytonutrients, which phyto stands for plant, and nutrients are substances that protect health. They have antioxidants, which protects the cell from damage or rust proofing for the body. Then there's plant stanols and sterols that are present, and those help lower blood cholesterol levels by interfering with its absorption. And realize whole grain does not exactly equal fiber, but many times it does. But the whole grain doesn't mean high fiber. The high fiber doesn't mean whole grain. So you need to read the label and see what you're getting for that food. And examples of whole grains versus the refined grains are here. You'll see with whole grains, it's a whole big variety. If you like buckwheat or bulgur or popcorn, quinoa, wild rice, brown rice, the whole wheat pastas, oatmeal, the list goes on. And you can see in the refined grains, those are the ones that is just the endosperm again. So it's the white pastas, the white rice, grits, pretzels. I know pretzels were a popular snack, and it was because it was fat free, and that was the big buzzword a number of years ago. But it's just refined grain. Where if you had popcorn as a snack instead, that's a whole grain and it will give you some fiber with that too and would be a better choice as a snack. Oops. So label reading. Here's a Cheerios label, and you can see that they were consciously making sure the first ingredient, which is the most in the package, is whole grain oats. So it says it right on the label if it's whole grain or not. Now, the fiber content may vary depending on the product. I believe Cheerios may have about 3 or 4 grams of fiber in a serving. Let's see. Yeah, so it doesn't really, can't really see it very well from this label, but it will give you a substantial amount. Maybe not as much as some high fiber diets, but it's certainly pretty good. So when you're looking to make substitutions to increase the fiber in your diet, this little chart can show you. I had mentioned the popcorn and pretzel swap, but going from white breads to wheat breads, which is whole wheat bread, not just wheat colored or brown colored bread. White rice should be swapped for brown rice, and the list goes on. Next is how diet adjustments can help prevent, relieve, or control common GI problems. So physical problems that impair digestion are listed here for you. Gallbladder removal, cirrhosis of the liver, pancreatitis, which is inflammation of your pancreas, cancer of the stomach, where the stomach might have to be removed. The GI tract is inflamed or irritated. These conditions need medical intervention and follow-up is required, and is all I'm going to say about that. So that's a little beyond the nutrition scope. But something like lactose intolerant, that's one of the most common problems all around the world. And if you see on the right, there's a list of ethnicity and geographical regions and the incidence of being lactose intolerant. And it's quite the gamut, but 90 to 100% of East Asians are lactose intolerant. And as you go down the list, you'll see all the way to the end, the British in the UK, it's 5 to 15%. So they tolerate their lactose just fine. But what happens here is the body isn't making enough of the enzyme lactase, which is what the body makes to break down lactose. Lactose meaning milk sugar. Whenever you see OSE, that's a type of sugar. If you see ASE at the end of the word, that's the enzyme that will help break down that sugar. So, different from a milk allergy, which is a sensitivity to the protein in milk. So, don't think that if there's an allergy versus an intolerance, it's totally two different things. Now, to treat lactose intolerance, it's really a pretty easy thing to do these days because we have lactase pills and treated milk that has lactase already in the milk. And you can also switch to plant-based milks if you need to, like almond milk or soy milk. But the lactase pills, just know that you need to take them at the same time you're eating a food with lactose in it, because it has to be right there in the gut with it to help it digest right then and there. And it is dose related. So lactose intolerance for some people, maybe they can tolerate 2 or 4 ounces of milk, but if they had 6 or 8 ounces of milk, they have all the symptoms. So they have to know to limit the quantity or maybe switch to these lactase products. Now, another condition or two is diverticulosis and diverticulitis. With diverticulosis, it's the presence of small pouches or diverticula in the lining of the colon. And in the illustration there, you can see those little red balls that are outside of the intestine or the colon. Those are just those big diverticula. And it's a common condition often found in older adults and is frequently asymptomatic. So you won't feel a thing and it doesn't bother you, it's not a problem. The problem arises if it becomes diverticulitis. So itis means inflammation or infection of one or more of the diverticula, those pouches again. So it can cause symptoms such as pain, fever, bleeding, and changes in your bowel habits. That's something that needs medical attention. Now, nutritionally, when you have diverticulosis, it really doesn't require any special nutrition intervention except for consuming a high fiber diet, adequate in fluid, and physical activity. And they used to say you should restrict nuts, seeds, corn, and popcorn because they thought it got caught in the diverticula. But more studies happened and they said that's not considered necessary any longer. Now, during diverticulitis, oral intake is usually reduced until bleeding and diarrhea subside. The diet is reintroduced gradually under the guidance of a medical professional to make sure that your system is healed and can handle it again. Another common GI problem are hemorrhoids. And that's the swelling and inflammation of the veins in the rectum and the anus, and can be effectively managed through dietary changes. So nutrition tips here is increase fiber and fluid. So mostly water would be a good option, but you can get fluid in many other places. And that intake increase will help avoid straining during bowel movements. You know, if you're going to the restroom with reading material and you have to sit there for a half an hour until anything happens, that is not a good sign. You need to be able to pass those bowel movements that are softer, easier to pass, and won't take too much time in the restroom. Avoid highly processed foods high in sodium and unhealthy fats. Limit spicy foods which can irritate the GI tract. Lower your intake of dairy products as they can contribute to constipation. And avoid alcohol and caffeine, which can dehydrate and worsen the symptoms. And of course, consult your healthcare professional for personalized guidance because everyone is different. Now, with diarrhea or constipation issues, those elimination problems, there we go. Many times you might see a doctor bring out this chart for you to see, and they're trying to find out exactly what type of stool that you are producing. And all the way on type number 1 on the left, you just see those hard pellets. That's really severe constipation. As you move from type 2 to type 3, 3 and 4 are more the normally formed bowel movements that you should experience, where it's a softer consistency and easy to pass. And then when you start to get to types 5, 6, and 7, the stools are getting looser and looser until it becomes diarrhea. So this helps the doctor identify where the issues are and what can be done about it. Now for constipation nutrition tips, fiber and fluid again. I'll be a broken record with that, just fiber and fluid. It may help you feel less constipated and bloated and can help ease that constipation. And you can increase fiber slowly over the course of a few weeks, which will keep your symptoms from getting worse. One of the recent recipes that I've used with people is chia pudding. And if you've never had that, a serving of chia pudding is very simple to make. You take 2 tablespoons of chia seeds, a half a cup of maybe a vanilla almond milk, and you can throw in some blueberries or strawberries with that. Stir it together. If you'd like a little sweet taste, you might be able to sweeten it with a touch of honey if you'd like. But just putting that in the refrigerator for a number of hours, stirring it together and having that, you get a good amount of fiber from that serving. It's very tasty. It's almost like having an ice cream dessert, and it might help what ails you. Now, diarrhea tips for in nutrition is, again, fiber, fat, lactose, and sugars in what you're eating now, which should help stop diarrhea and make you feel better. Limit foods and beverages that contain sugar, lactose, fructose, high fructose corn syrup, and sorbitol. And again, notice those words all end in OSE. So it's milk sugar, fructose is fruit sugar, and high fructose corn syrup. I'm sure you've heard that in the media. And sorbitol, anything ending in OL, is a sugar alcohol. Those can all create issues. And you'll see warning labels on many foods that are artificially sweetened about you may be getting some GI symptoms if you have too much of it. You want to avoid beverages with caffeine. Eat a small meal or snack every 3 or 4 hours, and avoid spicy foods if they make the symptoms worse. Now for heartburn or gastroesophageal reflux disease, GERD, you might experience cramps, heartburn, and bloating. Now, the best tips nutritionally here are wait 3 hours after eating before lying down. So you don't want to have your dinner and then go straight to bed. You want gravity to help keep the food going in the right direction and not backing up the other way. So let gravity help. Eat several small meals throughout the day. And I mean, small size meals, not these huge buffets. Eat in a calm, relaxed place and sit down while you eat. All of that keeping you relaxed and the food going in the right direction. Trying A trial of limiting or eliminating certain foods may lower your symptoms. Now, this list of foods are things that in interviewing lots and lots of people was discovered could be triggers for GERD. So peppermint and spearmint, chocolate, alcohol, caffeinated beverages, pepper, high fat foods of all different kinds, from fried foods to pastries and high fat yogurts and milks, nuts and nut butters, and more than 8 teaspoons of using oil, butter, or shortening per day. Any fruits and vegetables that cause symptoms are also on this list, but again, it's personalized. Some of this may bother you, some of it may not bother you, so it has to be individualized. Some lifestyle tips to go along with the nutrition tips is that you should exercise at least 3 or 4 times each week. Wear loose fitting clothing. The tighter your clothing, the more you're constricting your body and your GI tract, and it's pushing things the other direction. Don't smoke, and raise the head of your bed 6 to 9 inches. It can be done with a foam wedge under the top part of your mattress, or you can prop up the legs on the head of the bed with wooden blocks. But just stacking pillows isn't really very effective. When you think about just having lots of pillows, probably while you're sleeping, you're sliding down those pillows and you end up flat on the bed. So that's not going to be a permanent fix. Now, IBS, that seems to be a catch-all for if they can't diagnose anything else, it must be irritable bowel syndrome. So it's a common digestive disorder that affects the large intestine. The symptoms can include abdominal pain, bloating, gas, and changes in bowel habits, like diarrhea, constipation, or going back and forth between those. So while it doesn't cause lasting damage, IBS can significantly affect your daily life and well-being. So the influences, or the things that do influence IBS, one is the gut-brain axis disruption. Essentially, the gut and the brain connection may be overly sensitive, leading to pain and digestive changes. There's digestive motility issues, or transit time. It's the amount of time it takes for the food to travel through your GI tract. If it's going too fast or too slow, that can affect your IBS. Visceral hypersensitivity. So it's a heightened sensitivity to gas or bowel movements, causing discomfort even with normal digestive activity. The gut microbiome imbalance is another influence. It changes in the balance of bacteria in the gut that can trigger or worsen symptoms. Stress and mental health, anxiety, depression, and chronic stress can all influence your symptoms by affecting gut function. An example there, if any of you have ever given a solo performance or had to speak in public and it made you very nervous, the first thing you want to do is run to the bathroom because you're getting those GI symptoms and it's increasing that motility time. So stress and mental health can definitely affect it. Infections or illness. Some people develop IBS after a bout of gastroenteritis or food poisoning, and that's known as post-infectious IBS. And then there's dietary triggers. There's certain foods, especially high FODMAP foods, that can worsen symptoms in many people with IBS. Now, FODMAP foods are all carbohydrates, all different kinds of sugars, and in the next couple slides, I'll be covering that in more detail. So basic nutrition tips for IBS is you need to identify your triggers, and doing that through a structured elimination diet using a food and symptom journal. You want to consider the low FODMAP diet, manage your stress with tools like mindfulness, exercise, or therapy, stay active to support your digestion, and consult with a registered dietitian or healthcare provider before starting any elimination diet and to find out the best plan that's going to help you. Now, IBS is personal. What works for one person may not work for another, but with the right support, you can find relief and feel more in control. Now, as promised, the low FODMAP diet. Between the red lines, you can see it lists fermentable oligo, di, and monosaccharides. Those are all types of sugars. A monosaccharide is one molecule of sugar. The disaccharides has two, and the oligo is many sugar molecules together. And then the polyols, and the polyols are sugar alcohols. So you can see on the left, there's a bucket there and it says FODMAPs add up. So portions and timing of these things are very important. We all have a bucket that we can fill up and hopefully not get symptoms. So that's why I said, like, when you have lactose, which is a disaccharide, lactose may be fine if you have 2 ounces. Maybe that's all your bucket can hold. But if you had 4 ounces or 8 ounces, that's going to overflow your bucket, and that's going to trigger all those symptoms. So thanks to Patsy Katsos with giving me permission to share this slide, but it shows you all those FODMAPs together could cause symptoms, or it might be just one of the FODMAPs that are your issue, like lactose. That's an easy fix, where again, we switch you to lactase products. A very common irritant for some of my clients has been garlic and onion, and it could be hidden in so many different foods that you have to play detective very often to see that you're not overdoing those foods. So the low FODMAP diet is only to be used on a short-term basis. Try it only for 2 to 6 weeks, working with a trained registered dietitian. Keep thorough records of your intake. You want to know when and how much you ate and drank of the different food items. What were your symptoms? What was the type of symptom? How severe were the symptoms? Were they livable or were you doubled over in pain? And the timing of the onset after eating that particular food or drinking that drink. And then there's the reintroduction phase after that 2 to 6 week low FODMAP diet. And here you're testing the tolerance to know, again, the quantity of the food. Can I have 1 strawberry but not 6 strawberries? So it's all a matter of playing detective. It's your body and you have to know what you're reacting to. A wonderful resource for low FODMAPs is by Monash University. They have an app called the Monash FODMAP Diet. And here they have a wonderful system that lists their whole food database, and then they assign like traffic lights: green light, yellow light, red light. And if it's 6 of the FODMAPs are listed and it says to have a 1/4 cup of something and it gets all green lights, then you know that's a safe bet. If it has some yellow on different sections, it'll maybe isolate fructose. Then maybe if that food bothers you, the fructose may be the issue. And if it's a red light for 1 or more of those FODMAPs, then you know that's to be avoided if it's causing you symptoms. Now, also, as far as probiotics go, I know a lot of people just say, well, I take probiotics and it sometimes helps. But they're live microorganisms, bacteria or yeast, that can offer health benefits, like improving your digestive or immune health when it's consumed in sufficient amounts. The effectiveness depends upon your own gut microbiota, your age, your diet and exercise levels, your genetics, your stress, and your specific symptoms. Monash University recommends individuals follow the low FODMAP diet first and wait until they've already seen how the elimination and the challenge phases are done and how they did before introducing probiotics. That way you're not muddying the water and confusing what's helping and what isn't. And realize probiotics aren't a magic cure-all for IBS, but they can be another tool in the toolbox. So again, talk to the doctor, talk to your dietitian before starting some of these probiotics and go from there. Another condition which some people just kind of giggle about, but it's no laughing matter, is food poisoning. That affects our GI tract significantly. And if you've ever experienced food poisoning, you know what I mean. It's can cause by contaminated food or beverages. It's often due to bacteria, viruses, parasites, or toxins, and can result in diarrhea, fever, upset stomach, vomiting, and abdominal cramping. Common foods involved in food poisoning are raw or undercooked meat, poultry, or seafood, unpasteurized milk and dairy products, raw or undercooked eggs, fresh fruits and vegetables, contaminated water, and ready to eat foods. And if you look at the little thermometer on the right, it shows you the danger zone for food. If your food is between 41 degrees and 135 degrees for too much time, like over 2 hours, that's a reason to throw food out. You want hot foods to stay hot, cold foods to stay cold. We had recent power outage in our area and it was out for more than 7 hours. So hopefully people didn't open their refrigerators up and warm up the inside of their refrigerator. But certainly if it was at 40 degrees or over that for more than 2 hours, all that food had to be thrown out and replaced. So be careful. Now, this just shows you the fight back or keep food safe from bacteria. So clean, keep your hands clean and surfaces clean often. Separate but don't cross contaminate. You don't want raw meats with cooked meats or have a cutting board cutting raw meat and then cutting fresh vegetables on it. And again, keeping cold foods refrigerated properly or frozen and cook your foods to the proper temperatures. The consequences. Most people have mild illness and get better on their own, but sometimes food causes severe illness and complications. It can cause dehydration and hospitalization may be needed. So it's no laughing matter. Another aspect of things that can affect our GI health is chemical dependency and habitual use of the first grouping is laxatives. Long-term use can cause a reliance on them for your bowel movements, potentially causing more harm than good. Aspirin, if you're taking that as a pain reliever around the clock all the time, it can irritate your stomach lining, increasing the risk of ulcers and bleeding. And antacids, depending on the type, some may cause constipation, like calcium aluminum, and while others may cause diarrhea, like magnesium. So just be aware of those and always suspect them if that's something that you're doing now. Always look for credentials that are credible sources of nutrition information when dealing with anything nutritionally. The premier place to go is the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. Then you want to look for the registered dietitian, the registered dietitian nutritionist, which are pretty much one and the same, licensed dietitians, or dietary technician registered credentials. They're the professionals who can be a valuable source of information and can help you set smart, realistic goals. And if you go to eatright.org, you can find a wealth of information there. Other places to go for reliable information is the American Medical Association, government agencies like the USDA and the FDA, universities that have nutrition and or medical programs. Look for the .edu, Monash University being one of those. Medical centers like the Cleveland Clinic and the Mayo Clinic present very reputable information. Volunteer health agencies that are specific to GI issues, and I have those listed for you. And there are patient advocacy and support organizations as well. So those would be all great places to look up more information. So to sum up, what can adults expect from a realistic approach to a healthy diet and good health habits? Prevention or control of many common GI issues, which we all know are not things we want to deal with, and achieve a healthy gut microbiome. So I'd like to thank you for listening to me today. We have two more presentations on nutrition coming up, one in September on heart health and one in November on diabetes and prediabetes management. And if you haven't seen part one of this series, it is on YouTube at this link. So again, thank you for attending this session. And if you had any comments or questions, I'd be happy to answer those for you.
Jane, thank you so much. That was great. I'm going to try to bring my camera back on. For some reason, it's not allowing me to, but there are many questions that I'd love to get to. So if you can bear with me, the voice from beyond, I'm going to start asking some of the questions that have been so thoughtfully given to us.
Okay.
Before we do, just a reminder that I will be dropping a link to our YouTube channel as well as our Facebook page in the chat. You can find Jane's first presentation at our YouTube channel. Just do a search for nutrition and it'll populate that for you. This will go up on that YouTube channel within about a week or so. And then I will also drop a link to register for the heart health presentation that Jane will deliver in September. So now with that, a couple of questions. One question is about probiotic pills. There's actually a couple questions about probiotics. Do you recommend taking probiotics? If so, is there a preference between liquids that you refrigerate or the pills themselves? And is there a time of day where you would recommend taking a probiotic and or prebiotic?
Okay. I think that's an individualized question you really have to talk to your doctor about, whether for your particular health and conditions, if a probiotic would be beneficial. If you're eating a wholesome, well-balanced diet, you should be good to go. Getting in, say, yogurt will get you some good, healthy probiotics in there. The I always fault on the side of going for food first because you get that natural package of nutrients in there. So if you can get your probiotics that way, I think it'll save you a lot of money and may not be necessary to supplement with those things. But that said, there may be certain things about your health that perhaps you do need to supplement, and that's where your medical professional can identify that for you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Jane. Another question is generally, while we try to do our best, that there are often times when we don't eat how and when we should as far as scheduling goes.
Mhm.
Does waiting to eat, i.e., unintentional fasting, I suppose, cause issues with the GI tract over time?
I'd say if it's a once in a blue moon kind of thing, it's just you had a glitch in your schedule, then it's not a problem. Your body can usually deal with that just fine. But if you're making a habitual thing day in and day out, then there could be issues. And if you're finding you're getting symptoms, say of constipation, for example, then yeah, there may be some tweaking to do. And maybe you're going too long without eating and keeping your body fueled with the right fuel and helping give it the energy and the nutrients it needs.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I am going to drop a link to watch the first presentation in the chat now. So if you're interested in that, I have dropped that link into the chat. Another question that we have is regarding Metamucil and whether you would recommend that as a source of fiber.
Okay, again, I think that the supplements aren't needed if you can get your diet to be higher in the fiber content and making the right choices. If your gastroenterologist says this is the prescription they want you on, then, of course, follow medical advice. But usually, the average American diet is very low in fiber, and we're not making the best choices. But I'd say that's more of a crutch to use a supplement. So if you can make those high fiber changes in your diet with foods, I think you would feel better and be better off.
Awesome. Before we lose too many folks, we are at time. If you're still interested in staying on, we'll continue to ask the questions. But before I do end this, I did want to say there were lots of questions about the chia pudding recipe. Would you be willing to repeat the chia pudding recipe as well as indicate how long you typically refrigerate it before you consume it?
Oh, sure. And I don't know if we can post it with a link later, but it's if you Google it, you'll find a chia pudding recipe of many different types. But the one I use is 2 tablespoons of chia seeds, a half a cup of, I like vanilla almond milk, and then I throw in some fresh blueberries or any fruit you like and just stir it up. I don't usually add a sweetener, but some people like to add a little honey to it, maybe a drop or two. And then at least refrigerate it 2 hours or more because it will be a little loose. And if you want it a little bit more solid, you stir it up. And anytime after a couple hours, you're good to have it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mhm.
I've put chia in oatmeal and it's a texture thing. So if you've not had chia seeds before, if you have a texture thing, there are ways to hide it. So I do put it in my oatmeal when I have oatmeal as well. I'm also going to drop in the chat, a link to register for the heart health presentation in September. A couple more questions. One of them is with regard to grains and do they cause inflammation?
Um, hmm. I guess it would depend again individually on what you're sensitive to. As far as I know, if you're using whole grains, it should not. And just keep a good mixture. The best thing for a diet is to add variety. So don't have the same thing day in and day out. Mix it up because every different food or grain has different nutrients that it's providing, and you're covering all bases if you get that all mixed together.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Jane. I do want to be respectful of your time as well as those of you that have stayed on the line with us this long. So thank you so much. We're going to stop the questions here, but as a reminder, if you do have any questions or would like to have some more information, you are always welcome to email AARP Ohio at ohaarp@aarp.org. And those questions will eventually be filtered over to me. And if it's something that I can answer, I'm happy to do so. Otherwise, we'll make sure that Jane has an opportunity to answer your question. So feel free to reach out to us if you do have any questions. As a reminder, I did drop in the chat a link to register for the September 25th presentation on heart health. And you can always continue to follow your journey by researching different opportunities to get involved with the AARP, both in person and virtually in your community. I'm going to drop something that I discovered while we were on the line is a quiz on the aarp.org about gut health and microbiome health. So test your knowledge after this and definitely look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you all so much and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you. Where are we?